Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and what is another episode of reviewing your gaming rigs. Now I haven't done one of these in a while. A lot of you really enjoy these videos. I have been locked out of my Instagram account for a couple of weeks, hence why I haven't made another one of these. When I say locked out, I mean I forgot my password. I changed it not too far back and I had to reset my iPad, had to log in again. It's a long story and I've been eager to get back on the gram. Oh, I can't believe I just called it that. But without further ado, let's get into it and take a look at some of your gaming machines. Be it good or bad, be it expensive or cheap. If you want to send me your PC submissions, at RGInHD on Instagram. Hope to see you in my DMs. First up, we have a lovely Dell machine from Phone Camera Picks. Here we have an XPS 625 running an AMD Phenom X3 quad-core X3 quad-core X3. Is that an X3 or a quad-core? Anyway, it's an AMD 9850 processor, 4600 series AMD graphics cards in Crossfire, and 8 gigs of DDR2, plus a 750 watt PSU, which I presume is the stock Dell one, which in all fairness is pretty good, and all for the cheap price of £20. Now when I was reading through the specs I thought they're going to struggle a little bit in modern titles, but for that price that is a complete steal in my opinion. If you wanted to sell it on, there's a nice profit to be had. Those old Dells go for silly money, and if you wanted to play a few older yet exciting titles, you'll have a great time with that machine, and to me those Dells look fantastic as well. Next up is a build from Chris Watson 129. We've got a lovely desk setup there. The sleek all white case looks very nice, and you get bonus points for having my YouTube channel open in the screenshot. That's how you earn yourself some bonus points. Not Linus in the screenshot, okay? Not anyone else. Alright. The RTX 2070, the i7-8700K, and 32 gigs of DDR4. It's his first build, used mainly for heavy gaming. I'm sure you're having a fantastic time on that machine. What a beast. The dual monitor setup there is also a nice touch. Next up, it's Jordan with his PC here. That's the username. Got about 100 eyes. Okay, more like 4, but still. We've got a nice system here, an i7-4770K, overclocked to 4.5 GHz on an H100i V2 liquid cooler, 32 gigs of HyperX Beast 1666 MHz memory, running at 1886, a Maximus 6 Hero motherboard, a 980 Ti. I love the 980 Ti, but yeah, that's paired with a Corsair RMI 750 watt PSU, a 500 gig SSD, and a 2 TB Seagate Barracuda inside a Sahara P35 case. This is a very nice system here. That blue colour, I'm not sure what the official name for that sort of light blue is, but that's a pretty sweet setup there, dude. So Hazel ST666 has sent me his rig here, comprising of an i5-8600K, a Cooler Master Hyper 212, a GTX 1070, and 16 gigs of DDR4. The i5-8600K is nice, it lets you overclock. The i5 you've used there is still a very nice chip indeed, though it can be a little overpriced in some places. Next up we have an older but absolutely brilliant system from DWZG42. Is showing off your PC setup still a thing, he asks? Absolutely. Now that I'm back on Instagram, we're ready to go again. This system is an absolute beaut. Look at the state of that. Now, I mean that in the best possible way. We've got the Core 2 Extreme. When I move my hands a lot, you know that a PC is good. A Core 2 Extreme QX6700 in here, overclocked to a whopping 3.2 GHz, 8 gigs of OCZ DDR2 800 SLI ready RAM, an NVIDIA Enforce 680i motherboard, 3 8800 GTXs in 3-way SLI, and a Cooler Master GX 750 watt. I was going to say, he's put himself that is a little bit underpowered for three-way SLI. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm not sure what the recommended PSU is for 3-way SLI of the 8800, but yeah, that doesn't sound quite enough, but it's working. As long as it's working, that's absolutely fine. A very interesting build consisting of Intel's first quad-core consumer CPU and 3 legendary 8800 GTXs. He says the thing is a beast and it produces an unbelievable amount of heat, only rivaled by the infamous FX 9590, which I'm yet to continue testing in a follow-up video very soon, by the way. The PC was very fun to build and an important piece of nostalgia. Dennis, that is a fantastic rig. I love the cooler you've got on the CPU there as well. 3 8800s. I might have to steal that idea and create an old school beast of my own. What a build. Now, as with all these videos, I apologise if I pronounce your names or usernames wrong. This one's from Monosegus. Keep up the good work on the videos, I enjoy them. Thank you, I enjoy making these as well. Here's my gaming rig. This features a Ryzen 7 1800X, 16 gigs of DDR4, a GTX 1070 and a Corsair SF600. The 1070, as always, is still a very popular choice. One of my favourite cards. I owned one for a couple of years. I like that you've used the Ryzen 7 1800X. I don't know when you built that, but it seems that these days it's still a capable processor. The 1070 though, and the R7 1800X in combination is a fantastic choice, and the 16 gigs of 3200 MHz RAM will really complement AMD's Ryzen processors too. A nice build in what looks like a pretty sleek and compact case. Now, Project Blue Jay, the XJ, has sent over his specs of his main build here, an AMD FX 8350 1060, 16 gigs of DDR3 and a 3TB WD Blue HDD in a rose wheel case. That looks like it needs a bit of dusting. Clean it up a little bit. That will play havoc on your CPU or GPU if you let it get too dusty there. But the specs, the 1060, still a nice budget card. The FX 8350 could do with upgrading quite soon. It's still okay, but you may find yourself being held back in some titles. The rosewood case also looks pretty nice. I just like plain black cases. And you've got 2 ViewSonic 1080p monitors as well, which is a nice setup. I'm really enjoying some of these dual monitor setups you guys are sending me. I have a single monitor myself, but I'm thinking about making the switch. I like the whole surround thing. I might put 3 monitors around in a row, like that. Yeah, The Witcher 3 on 3 monitors. The only thing that puts me off is the black bars you get, like when you put 2 monitors together. I guess I could get borderless ones, but that's always been my main gripe, so to speak, there. Next up, we have a rig from _1 Spectre 5_, who sends me his i7 9700K and GTX 1080 rig with 16 gigs of DDR4. Long story short, I was really depressed with exams, bullying, etc. But getting a job and watching your calming videos really helped me make the rig I want and get my life back on track. Thanks so much, man. Oh, that's nice there. Yeah. You know, okay, the thing about exams is how do I not give terrible advice? That's the thing. I'm not an advice channel. I've always been terrible with giving advice, but here goes. The thing about exams is that they can be annoying sometimes and stressful, but I'm just going to say that I got straight U's, ungraded, in a lot of my exams. I got an A in English, that was about it, and I can barely speak it, so how that happened I don't know, but you know, you don't need exams in life to guarantee success. Let's just say that. Don't worry about your exams. As for the bullies, and people only bully you when they've got something wrong with them, you know? You can just know deep down that whoever's bullying you is doing so because they have far bigger issues going on in their lives. Just ignore it, man. I'm glad to hear you've got things back on track, man, and that is a nice rig as well. Now, I really like this machine from PeteB123, who's got an Intel Xeon 2689, 16 gigs of ECC memory, and an RX 480 pulled from an HP machine. It looks good, and from what I know about those Xeons, I think the early 2689s had 8 cores and 16 threads, and I think the newer ones have 10 cores and 20 threads, which will offer amazing performance. Even the early ones, if that's the original one, which I presume it is because it's on the 2011 board. But yeah, they're great CPUs if you can find them. The 2011 motherboards are very expensive as well. So you've got a nice rig there with plenty of resale value as well. Should you ever want to upgrade any of those components, you could probably get a fair bit for that motherboard and CPU combo. Bang on £400 and you save for the money, it's great. I'm sure it is. Those Xeons, like I say, are very nice. The RX 480 is still capable as well. So Fisher Tales Sierra has sent me his setup here, a Ryzen 5 2600. Good choice. DDR4 3000 megahertz RAM. I don't think you've said how much, but as long as it's not 4 gigs, you'll be doing just fine. A Vega 56, I owned one very briefly. Thought it was a fantastic card for the money. And a 256 gig SSD with a 1TB Samsung SSD and a 1TB WD Blue HDD, all in a NZXT H110 case. 6 fans and 2 Be Quiet fans as well. The MX300 is hidden, you say, because it looks like this. That's not too bad. I like stickers on everything as well. And of course, the piece de resistance, fantastic French there. The gaming chair. Now that is a gaming chair, okay? When I see your rigs in my DMs, I want to see the chairs as well, okay? Because as Fishy Tail Sierra has said here, his chair adds, what was that, 90 FPS? Was that 90 or 60? Because there's an important distinction to make here. 90 FPS apparently, or 40. We're going to say 90. That is a chair worth having. I don't know how much you paid for it, but it was worth every penny. Now finally, we're on to the good stuff here. We have a Dell Optiplex 790 from Antic Dom here. It's got an i3-2120 that he's looking to upgrade to a 2400, 4 gigs of RAM, and a 550 Ti that he paid £10 for. I've got a 1050 Ti, sorry, a 550 Ti at the moment as well, that was in that old FX machine. Unfortunately, it didn't work at the time. I threw it in a different system the other day and it worked a little bit for a while. I managed to test out a few games and I found that it seems to be comparable to the integrated graphics of a Ryzen 5 2400G, the Vega 11 there. You get very similar results from what I've seen. So in that regard, considering you paid £10 for it, I think it's a nice buy. As you say, yes, an upgrade to the i5 2400 would be ideal. Luckily, they're not too expensive. And 8 gigs of RAM. Oh, we're going to say you max it out to 16 gigs. That would be much better. Yeah, 16 gigs of RAM, the i5 2400, and the 550 Ti would be a nice combination. And you can always upgrade that 550 Ti later down the line as well, because the i5 2400 is capable of supporting something a little more powerful. A 1280 by 1024 monitor at 75 Hz as well, and the PC never fails to run games at that resolution with medium to high settings at 70 frames per second plus. I'm not sure that would be the case with Metro Exodus, but that's just me. However, I like what you've done with the Dell. I see you've also got an upgraded power supply in there, which is essential for those old machines also. This next one, 1,000 apologies again, I just know I'm not going to pronounce this right, but Iskrenzdravkov, I think I did that okay, has sent me 2 PCs. That's cheating. 1 PC per DM, please. I'm joking, you can send as many PCs as you like. I'm looking to take part in your weekly videos. I would like to thank you about all the inspiration. You're the reason I started deal hunting. I'm glad I've got more people out there on the streets looking for those great PC bargains. Okay, so he sent across 2 systems. The first one being an i5 6600K with 8 gigs of DDR4. You've mentioned you've got 1 times 8 gig stick there. I'd recommend 2 4 gig sticks in dual channel, but it doesn't matter too much. A 1060 as well, the Asus ROG Strix edition. I'm a massive fan of those cards. And a half modular CX650M from Corsair as well. The fans are from AliExpress, which I got on discount for about 40 USD and waited 3 months for them to come. That's always the case with AliExpress, buying from China. Sometimes it takes absolutely ages, but you can find some great deals on there. It's also got a Samsung SSD and a 2TB WD Green. I like this about the case being cheap just to get the job done. That's exactly how I feel about cases. I always go for a plain case that costs me about £15 because who can really be bothered with all that fancy stuff? Okay, the NFS sticker was also from AliExpress. That is a brilliant touch. Need for Speed Most Wanted, one of my favourite games of all time, and one that I don't include in the benchmarks. I really should. The second machine has an i7-4790K, still a very capable CPU, Corsair Dominator Platinum RAM, 2x4 gigs at 1866, an Arctic Liquid Freezer 120, and a GTX 980 G1. Still a fantastic card. I reviewed one of those not long ago and found that yes, it's still very capable indeed. I love the old i7s as well. I think they're still great processors if you can find them for decent money. I think you get 4 cores and 8 threads, so they can still keep up even today. And I much prefer the subtle look of this case compared to the first one. You've got the all black there with the white fan on the liquid cooler. That's a pretty nice setup. And you wanted to be featured, I see, because you wanted the bragging rights. Well, brag away. You've been in the video. I don't know why anyone would brag about being in my video, but there you go. 2 great PCs there. Right, so the Pomegranate Pie has sent me his poor little rig, his own words there. It's a laptop comprising of an i5-8250U, an MX150 and 8 gigs of DDR4 with a 720p panel. See, I don't know why they put a 720p screen on those laptops. I think a 1080p screen would have been much better suited. The MX150, from what I recall, is equivalent to a desktop 1030, something along those lines, so it should be capable of 1080p gaming in some situations, but I guess for those more intense tasks and games, 720p would certainly be better suited. It's just annoying to see some laptops have half decent specs inside them and then they get paired with a terrible display. However, I like what you've done here. You've got to have that external keyboard and mouse for a laptop setup. Trying to game on a touchpad is just not happening. The MX150 I think is okay. As I said, it's similar to a GT 1030 desktop card. And yeah, I mean, you're working with what you've got there. A message now from Siam Mukd. Probably pronounced that one massively wrong again. Check out this bad boy. His words again. An i5-2410 with 8 gigs of DDR3 and a GT525M. What I like about the laptop is that it's got a 120 gig SSD in there. That makes all the difference with older setups. I'm not really sure what the GT525M can do. It's got 1 gig of DDR3, so it might be okay for CSGO. Send over some benchmarks if you can there. I'd love to know what that thing is capable of. Alright, so Jack Woodyard13 has sent me his rig and he wants to know if he should spend £500 to £600 on building a new one, or if there's any upgrade path for his current rig. He has an A8 7600 APU, a Sapphire Radeon R7 360 Nitro, a WD Blue 500GB HDD, and a 500GB SSD as well, along with 8 gigs of DDR3 and a 430 watt EVGA PSU, all wrapped up in a CIT Venom mesh case. I like those cases. They're cheap, but they do the job. They're fairly sturdy, so I think you're fine sticking with that. The power supply is okay, but if you want to use a more powerful card, then it will probably need upgrading. The AMD A8 7600 is probably the thing that's holding you back the most there, and the R7 360 as well isn't too capable anymore. If you have the budget to build a new PC, like you say here, then I would go ahead and do that. If you upgraded the graphics card, the CPU would still be quite an intensive bottleneck, because I imagine it's quite a bad bottleneck already. And if you upgraded the CPU, well, there's not much room to upgrade on that motherboard. You'd still probably have to opt for one of AMD's older and less capable APUs. So I think the best answer there is to get a new motherboard, CPU and GPU combo for now. You can keep everything else. I mean, you've got a 500GB SSD. I think the core components probably do need a little bit of a refresh. Maybe something like a Ryzen 3 2200G even, paired with perhaps an RX 570. and 8 gigs of DDR4 would be a good choice, because you can always use the integrated graphics of the Ryzen while you're waiting to purchase the 570 or any other graphics card. So yeah, there are plenty of options available. Just look around on places like PC Part Picker at the budget you want to spend. Shop around on sites like CCL here in the UK, or eBuyer, or maybe even one of the many big retailers' outlets on eBay where you can find some used deals. And CEX, of course, who offer a 2-year warranty on everything as well, because there are certainly some bargains to be had. You could even go with something older. You could probably get an i7 4790 bundle with perhaps a GTX 1050 or 1050 Ti for good money, and 8 gigs of DDR3. So there are plenty of things to bear in mind. Just do your research and choose wisely, my friend. Okay, so we're going to squeeze another last one in. My camera's running out of battery. 9 minutes left. I don't know where the charger is, but we'll worry about that another time. So Christopher Photography 033 has sent me his rig. An i5 4570T, 16 gigs of DDR3 at 970, a 128 gig SSD and a 1TB WD green. He says, what upgrade do I need? And he also says this CPU was a dual core. I didn't believe him, and I looked it up. The i5 4570 non-T is a quad core with 4 threads, and the 4570T for some reason is a 2-core CPU with 4 threads. It's a 35 watt part, so it's, you know, it's got energy conservation in mind. And I think the obvious choice there would be to upgrade the CPU. Even if you got a standard 4570, you'd see a massive performance difference over the 4570T. What were Intel thinking? Thank you for your submissions. I'm finally back on Instagram now. If you want to submit your rigs at RGInHD on Instagram, I will get to every single one of you. I think the next one I make of these is probably going to be the one where we try and include about 20 or 30 rigs. Just when I can sit down and I've got an entire day free. But I thought I'd take this opportunity, now that I'm back on Instagram, to review a couple of your systems. So thank you as always for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Submit your potatoes or your excellent rigs over at RGInHD on Instagram, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.